Welcome back to the channel. We're back with our commander deck profile from Edge of Eternities. We have Sami, Wildcat Captain. For 4, a red and a white, we have a 4/4 with Double Strike and Vigilance. Spells you cast have affinity for artifacts, meaning that we have plenty of ways to create artifacts in this deck in order to benefit off of get that benefit for some big spells like 9 mana spells, maybe some big X spells that we'll be seeing later in the video. Just some things that we like to have that cost reduced for. But that's the general overview of the deck. Let's get into this card by card. Aetherflux Reservoir, we want to make sure we can have one big turn where we storm off, so we may as well gain some life off that. And that one person that we didn't have enough to remove them, well, let's use that life in order to remove them. It's also just a good artifact in order to get that affinity. Arcane Signet for some mana along with that affinity. Boros Signet, same thing. Darksteel Forge, once again, we like some big mana spells in this deck. We have this 9 mana spell in order to give all of our artifacts indestructible. So it not only could potentially cost 0 to cast, but it could also just be that good protection for us. Felwar Stone for some additional mana and that cost reduction with the affinity. We have Sacrifice and Artifacts for some additional mana, allowing us this to give us the affinity with our Ironworks. Lightning Greaves for that little bit of protection on Sami. This way, if they have like a generous gift or something of that sort, we want to make sure that they can't remove him like the turn right after he comes down, and we can actually do something with it. Mycosynth Lattice, all permanents and artifacts in addition to archetypes. All cards that aren't on the battlefield are also artifacts. Basically, everything we have is an artifact, allowing us to have everything give that affinity bonus, and we can potentially once again get this for 0 mana if we have Sami on the battlefield, depending on how many artifacts we already have. But this will also help us then get our other artifacts, and this plus Darksteel Forge, whew, your opponent's in trouble. Mystic Forge in order to get us some additional artifacts off the top of our library. Port of Phyrexia, like I said, we like these big 9 mana spells in this deck in order to potentially just win the game with them. When Port of Phyrexia enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices 3 creatures, so sometimes it's all the creatures some people control. At the beginning of your upkeep, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It's also Phyrexia in addition to its other types, but basically that big thing that your opponent just sacrificed, it's yours now for potentially 0 mana. Sculpting Seal for some additional maybe a second Portal Phyrexia. We get 2 of those each turn. Maybe we get second Plating Mirror. But it's also just good for that affinity while we're at it. Sensei's Divine Tap, another way to get that cheap affinity, allowing us to look for those 9 mana spells off the top cards of our deck while we're at it. Soul Ring for some additional mana and that affinity. Swiftfoot Boots, once again, we want to make sure that Sami could actually stick around for a little bit. Talisman can also, the other thing with that is, we may have some Blightsteel Colossus in here that might want to attack the turn it comes down, so that does benefit those as well. Talisman Conviction for the mana plus the affinity bonus. Reaver Cleaver, another way to get plenty of artifacts on the battlefield is to put plenty of treasure tokens onto the battlefield. So let's do just that in order to get our 9 mana spells super easily. Yeah. Especially if we put this on the Blightsteel Colossus, that's potentially 12. Unwinding Clock, untap all artifacts in order to make sure we could then use those artifacts for something. We have Abu, Ancient Witness. For 5 mana, other artifacts control have haste, allowing us to once again swing in with that Blightsteel Colossus the turn it comes down. Whenever one or more artifact creatures you control attack, deal X damage to any target, and scry X, where X is the number of tapped artifacts you control, which could potentially be a lot. This is also a new commander. I haven't built a deck on this one yet. I'll have to get around to that. Ancient Copper Dragon, in order to create some treasure tokens. This way, anytime we swing in on our opponent and deal that damage, we get to roll a d20 and create 1 treasure token because we're going to always roll a 1. Blightsteel Colossus. Once again, how could you turn down a free Blightsteel Colossus with this deck? Trample, Inflect, Indestructible, plenty of ways to give it that haste. Like I said, with the affinity for artifacts with Sami's ability, it could potentially cost 0 to cast. Not going to happen often, but when it does, it's going to be cool. Following that, we have Bronze Guardian. Double Strike, Ward 2. Other artifacts we control have Ward 2. Its powers equals the number of artifacts we control, which, 1 mana for potentially a 4/5. I'd take that deal, especially with Double Strike and Ward 2 and giving protection to our other artifacts. We like to see it. Combustible Gear Hulk. Once again, we're just going to imagine we have enough to make everything have no colorless casting cost. So 2 mana for 6/6 for first strike, but also potentially either drawing us 3 cards or milling our Blightsteel Colossus, our Portal Phyrexia, and Darksteel Forge, dealing 21 dirty damage to the target opponent. Well, or is it each opponent? Nope, target opponent. Esper Sentinel, it's another artifact to give us that affinity bonus, along with some additional draw power while we're at it. Foundry Inspector for, just general cost reduction while we're at it. Gold Mirror for some additional mana. Lustrous Warding Glyph, another way to create plenty of artifact creature tokens on the battlefield. Oh, wait, oh yeah, no, I thought it said it was an artifact for a second. But yep, once again, giving us that benefit for that affinity. Iron Mirror, benefit from the affinity, plus another creature, plus some additional mana, potentially for free. Liberator Ursa's Battle Doctor. When you cast a spell, if the mana spent to cast it is greater than Liberator's power, put a +1/+1 counter on Liberator. But the main ability we care about is giving our other artifact spells, our other color spells flash. This way they can come in because we're going to not be spending that much mana to cast stuff. Mirror Battlesphere, potentially a free 4/7 that creates us 4/1/1s, which is just also super helpful for getting an even higher affinity count on this board. Ornithopter Paradise, some additional mana, some additional affinity. Blading Mirror, some additional mana, some additional affinity. Ragavan gets us that treasure token when he deals combat damage. With that dash ability, helps us get out pretty early. Helps us also get Sami out a little bit earlier as well. Reckless Fireweaver. We may have plenty of treasure tokens enter the battlefield, so may as well deal 1 damage to each opponent anytime we do. Shimmer Mirror, in order to give our artifact spells a flash, in order to make sure that they could come at. No one expects the flash triplicate title. Simian Spear Guide for some additional mana, and also potentially just a 1 mana 2/2. Solemn Simulacrum, potentially a free land off the top of your deck, along giving us a 2/2 and a little bit of draw power when it gets removed. Threefold Thunderhulk, when this creature enters with 3+1/+1 counter on it. This creature enters or attacks to create a number of 1/1 colorless gnome artifact tokens equal to its power, giving us an even higher count for that affinity if we need it. Triplicate Titan, a free 9/9 that splits into 3 other 3/3s, 1 with flying, 1 with vigilance, 1 with trample. And then if we're finally at the end game and we need just that final push for damage, we have a huge walking ballista because the X we could just pay equal to the number of artifacts we control. Smothering Tide, or there's plenty of treasure tokens for plenty of affinity or plenty of mana, depending on what you need, because Sami himself does not have that affinity, which would make him pretty broken if he did, I'm pretty sure. And then, kind of like Hamza, though, I guess. Hamza Guardian of Arsham. Instance, we have Big Score, getting us some draw power, getting us some treasure tokens, getting us up in that affinity. Chaos Warp for some removal. I know it's in theory it's removal, but we always give our opponent their best thing. I may just be salty because one time I removed someone's token as a joke and I got an Omniscience off the top of their deck. The man answers for some additional draw power. Dispatch, we're going to have 3 artifacts, so we may as well get some draw power off that. Generous Gift, 1 mana for a removal. Had to exile for some removal. Seething Song for some additional mana to make sure we can cast our artifacts in the first place. Stroke of Midnight for some removal, Source Splasher some removal, and an Unexpected Windfall for some draw power plus those treasure tokens while we're at it. As always, we'll go over the lands last. Ugin, well, not really go over them, just scroll over them. Oh, except for this one. Shire Skull Smashing. Deal X damage divided as you choose among up to 2 target creatures or planeswalker. If X is 6 or more, deals twice X damage divided as you choose among them instead. So that's basically just a good removal for no matter what our opponents have. Ugin, Eye to Storm. Whenever this comes into play, exile target creature, target permanent. Yep. And then whenever we cast a color spell, which is plenty of things in this deck, we get to exile something. You also get to gain some life, draw some cards, get some additional mana while we're at it. But potentially he is free once again with that. If we have enough artifacts on the board. Austere Command for the board wipe. Blasphemous Act for a board wipe. Brass's Bounty. Each land you control creates a treasure token. We don't need the lands for mana. We have them for affinity. Call Forth the Tempest. For 3 mana, we have Cascade for 8. Call Forth deals damage to each creature and each opponent controls equal to the total mana value of the spells you cascaded into. still potentially, I mean, if you spent the 8 mana, well, spent the 3 mana to get two 6/6s, I mean, that's pretty worth it. And then you deal 12 damage. Oof. Crackle Power, probably the ultimate game ender in the set, deals 5 times X damage to each of up to X targets. This way, I mean, maybe we had Smothering Tide on the board, and then we got like just the 3 tokens. That's 5 damage to 3 targets. Well, no, it'd be 3 damage to 1 target. No, yeah, 5 damage to. Okay, anyway, we we like the cost reduction for that one. So I'm just trying to say, Pirates Pillage. But yeah, Pirate's Pillage, discard a card, draw 2 cards, get some treasure tokens. Sorry, I record all these videos at once, so my voice gets a little tired. So Heals, Detective, Improvise, Reveal, playing whatever we want for this X, depending on how many artifacts we control. Also gets us that Improvise ability, getting us an even better benefit off of those artifacts. Seize the Spoils, another way to get some treasure tokens and some draw power. Strike it rich, create a treasure token, create more treasure tokens to flashback, pay 1 again, essentially. Wait to pass 2 mana to return all artifacts. Well, no, this will probably be after a board wipe. So pay 7 mana to return all your artifacts. They do gain haste, which doesn't really matter with the sack, because I don't actually know. The main way we're going to win is try to do Crackle of Power, or, scare opponents. Exile, and then finally Zenith Festival. Once again, we pay whatever we want to X, depending on our affinity. You can play exile top X cards in your library, maybe play them until end turn, and harmonize to do it again. But I mean, if we have enough affinity and we exile, maybe like enough things that we could just win the game with that. But that's the deck there. If you like the deck, make sure you like the video. If you have your comments on how you'd run the deck, leave it down there in the comment section. And if you want to see more like this, we're going to be trying to cover all the Edge of Eternities commanders, along with just some additional commanders that we just like along the way. So if you have one you want to see, leave it in the comment section and subscribe so you can stay tuned. Have a great rest of the day.